Welcome to this episode, Prophecy for the Last Hour. Liz McGee. I have a teaching today, so I prepared some meat again. I have been, this has kind of been going over in my head. I want to kind of make a statement, so to speak, I guess you'd say, on something that's been troubling me. I don't check in with a lot of other YouTubers per se. I don't spend a lot of time following other people per se. I have some very close confidants that I talk to about deep spiritual things. I have some people that I do follow on YouTube, and I check in once in a while. And then a lot of times, sovereignly, I feel that Yahweh just sort of brings somebody across my path or something that has some interesting information, or to check out and kind of get the pulse or the temperature of what some people are saying out there. You know, a prerequisite for obviously being a teacher or someone who wants to impart wisdom, knowledge, understanding, discernment, anything to the elect would be that, there's a verse that says those who come to Yahweh must believe that he is. I mean, sometimes, this is why sometimes scholars, I listen, I read what they say, but I kind of keep it at arm's length, because a lot of scholars are really not believers. They're investigative kind of reporters, but they don't really believe in the text that they're researching, so they don't really there's a spiritual connection to it. I have found that a lot. But one of the things is, as a believer, and I am talking to the elect. Now, there's a group on the planet, I believe, the 144,000, you can take to a literal extent to a certain amount. There are people on the planet, a generation that is ready to bloom. A lot of the imagery, the language, the manifestation of the sons of God, the sons of Elohim, right? Obviously, they believe, right? You wouldn't be in that category. You wouldn't be taking the time to listen to this YouTube, knowing some of you know a little backdrop of what I believe, if you weren't really called. But there is an issue that I don't think a lot of people are as aware of, and this is what I want to talk about. So I believe that there has always been a righteous remnant. Now, that is what our texts say, correct? That there has always been this group of people on the planet who believe, who are connected to the head, to the Ruach HaKodesh, to the Father, and they have been transmitting generationally. We can document this. This is what would be called, your canon, your books of the Bible, authentic, spiritually inspired writings, connected, and that you can trust the information, the dissemination of truth and knowledge. There has always been a righteous remnant in the house of Judah. Now, today we're understanding, not all Jews, just like all Christians, just because you say you're something doesn't really mean that you are connected, that you really are part of that spiritual house, spiritual body, whatever, that you really. So, it's by word and deed that you get plugged in, so to speak. But this remnant has kept authoritative writings for us in the house of Judah. Praise the Lord. Now, yes, there's part of the synagogue of Satan, those that say they're Jews and they're not Jews, but I'm not really concerned about them. I am concerned with trying to say that we can trust, and there is a righteous remnant of writings that have been carried forward to us in this generation. The flip side is a lot of the unpacking of information that's coming forward today is coming from people who really are checking out what I consider to be lower or inferior images of the truth. All right. Look, if you believe it, Yahweh covenanted with a group on Mount Sinai. Now, historically, we know, going from Adam, we have had huge battle in this thing, the 6,000 years of redemption history. You had a flood. I've actually had to wipe out basically what had happened on the planet with Noah. It restarted up again with Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, all this. And you have this main character, Abraham, who really started a fresh dissemination of truth and a bloodline coming all forward all the way to us. And this has been the group that Yahweh has really been working with, tending, caring, pruning, plowing, replanting, whatever, all the words in the Bible are painting this about the righteous remnant, the crop that he's been growing for the last days, for this generation that will be on the scene at the end of the age. Now, I believe that's us. I believe that's the elect. I believe that this is another way of describing the 144. Now, but the thing is a lot of people have not really come home. An Ephraimite, see, I wish I was. I mean, actually, I'm very jealous. I wish I was brought up in a very believing remnant Kohanim group of ancient Israelites. Maybe way back, and I probably was some way back in my genealogical tree. There has to be some connection there. But be that as it may, I'm an Ephraimite Christian coming into Torah. Okay, so I that's just the way it is. But that's enough. And I have the Ruach, I have the Holy Spirit, which I didn't want to get into. We're understanding wisdom to lead me into truth. All right. So faith, believing. I've said this a lot of times. But a lot of these other philosophies and worldviews are still in competition for the attention and the veracity of a lot of the elect today. And I should say, like, a lot of people are still putting Eastern mysticism, the esoteric mystery schools, a lot of the religions, while there is some truth, they are not on the level of transmission as the remnant of the scribal house of Judah. And a lot of people are still balking, or let's not just say that right, the word, are still kind of on the fence about it, or not embracing it and going, we can trust our sages. All right, is what I'm trying to say. And not that it's still not a minefield, we're in a propaganda where you still have to weigh deeply, meditate, chew on it. You have to be in dialogue with the Ruach to kind of finally figure out and totally parse, be Berean, divide the word of truth correctly. All right. So a lot of this being said, what I'm saying is there's still a lot of anti-Semitic attitude to people of really trusting the writings in the house of Judah. And one of the largest bodies of truth is in the esoteric knowledge of Jewish mysticism today by a name called Kabbalah. Okay, now I've been over this, and this is what I mean. Seems to be a lot of people are coming to this understanding. I feel like people are beginning to wake up. They're beginning to think critically for themselves, read the text, not let somebody tell them what the spin is, what they're supposed to think, but to read deeply and meditate and seeing it's there, it's true. So a lot of these philosophies, worldviews, theosophies, because theo means God philosophies that are out there, Hinduism and Buddhism and Shintoism, all these things, even Islam, these things have a lot of truth in them. See, one of the things, Yahweh is really good. There is a lot of truth, and a lot of these does stem from Abraham. Abraham had two sons, right? Ishmael and Isaac. But we are told specifically that the faith remnant is going through Isaac. I mean, that's what it means. The transmission of truth that went through Isaac into Jacob, morphing into the 12 tribes, morphing into Moshe, this is, and you can call it elitist. I mean, I don't really care, but it's not elitist. It doesn't have to be elitist in a negative sense. It just has to be a final kind of like, okay, I get resting place. So these writings can be trusted because this is the covenant that Yahweh made on Mount Sinai with them. If you don't believe that, if that's not part of your faith, then whatever. Then we're not on the same page. What can I say? That's fine. But Yahweh has said that you will seek him when you find him. But so what I'm trying to say is, all right, so a lot of people are still putting out there and putting on an equal par a lot of the understandings that are coming back that are true. Oh, so much New Age kind of is true, but it's not pure. Right? There's a difference between, and it's not from the pure stream. It has been muddied. It has been dumbed down. It has been tainted. All right. This is the point. A lot of, in a lot of even Christianity today in its tradition is a impure stream, because we know if you're Hebrew roots, if you're a Essene, you understand the roots of our faith are deep in the house, the scribal remnant house of Judah. Okay, and they kept, and even Gnosticism, that's why I said the Gnostic texts. I mean, they don't really know, or they're just like quote unquote not telling us. You know, these, I believe, my research would indicate that these are texts coming from Gnostic, like impure Essenes, like Simon Magnus. This is the whole point. If you know his story, I believe he was used by Hasatan to infiltrate a whole stream of quote unquote Gnostic or hidden understanding, because that morphed into that with enough truth in it to just try to divert the true flow of emanation, understanding, wisdom that was coming through Yeshua, who said, you know, that he was making all things known again, and that he was disseminating the secrets or the keys to the kingdom or the hidden mysteries and understanding. So what I'm trying to say is, because a lot of people out there are understanding now, finally, that there is this whole wisdom tradition, that there is this whole, I don't want to say but there's this whole hidden revelatory state that our prophets, sages, and apostles obviously knew and flowed in. So, so a lot of this understanding has been couched and kept in what is quote called Jewish Kabbalah. All right, now, and I've been through this all over this. I am not talking about the hermetic, occultic, dark side that is out there, and that is a huge propaganda war going on today that is trying to get people's attention to think that all of it is dark and negative, and that there is no authentic stream. All right, and this is the battle. This is the battle I've been called to. Okay, to try to educate myself, and when I feel confident, just try to say it out there that yes, there is authentic, real, and this has the deep answers. This is what we need to finally put to bed and put to rest and kind of straighten out all the crooked places that are still left in the theology of trying to put this all back together. So some of the things that people are saying out there, I mean, there's like one group that will espouse that now the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, was really Baal, and, you know, some bloodthirsty Luciferian God out there. I mean, that's really, you have lost your foundation. You fell off the edge in that, of truly of not understanding what's going on. People are saying, you know, that Paul's a false apostle because of not understanding some, like, just the fact of the timeline of the last 2 days being a time specifically set aside by the prophets for the mixed multitude, for the nations, for the lost sheep. And Paul was called to bring the light to them, all right, which was started by Yeshua, was confirmed by the apostles, Peter. I mean, I'm not going to go, but you have to understand the flow. See, you know, one thing about Elohim, he doesn't stand still. He's moving. He's moving. Everything is about movement. It's about, you know, sound, vibration, speech, waves, short waves, long waves. There's a whole physicality, or I shouldn't even say a whole physics, like I've said to this. You have people out there, and this one really, which is really scary, because there's a guy on YouTube who I've checked in on once to just sort of see what he is. He's not a believer in Mashiach, okay? He's not a believer in Yeshua. The first thing, you know, at this stage of the game, and a believer in Yeshua is like a prerequisite to get in the door. That's the point. He is the door. You don't even get into the realm of truth supernally unless you come in through the door. Now, I don't know if in an hour I want to can say all that, because there's so many like sub things to say about all this. But anyways, who thinks he is going to start to teach people now about channeling, how to meditate, how to come in contact with dragons, which is nothing more than lesser, you know, these Elohims, these lesser Elohims, who are giving a message now for the end of the age, and people that, oh no, it's going to be all peaceful. There isn't going to be a huge apocalypse, which means apocalypse means in its transition, that it's not going to be a chaotic and like a battle, and we're just going to it's all going to be peace and it's all going to just sort of flow like, no, all right? For a Kabbalist, quote unquote, even a Jewish Kabbalist, all right, who doesn't believe in Mashiach, fine. To be saying that he has been in contact and is now going to encourage people to come in contact with these tele dragon. This is a whole thing we can now begin to understand. The classification of beings that is called dragons, which is another way for the seraphim, and it has the root word tan on the end, so that's why you've got leviathan, or you've got hasatan, tan at the end. There's ways Hebrew classifies these things. I mean, there's nothing in the planet, no language that can classification of beings, entities, philosophies, things than Hebrew. And this is our biggest problem, is we don't know Hebrew. We rely on these translations, the game of telephone, 50 translations off from the original. So, but to staying on track, so, I mean, that is deeply disturbing to me, all right, that you would have here, quote unquote, a Jewish Kabbalist encouraging people to channel fallen entities. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are really off the edge. All right. You have another person on YouTube. And by their witness, this guy is really a true saint, Hasidic or Sadiq, righteous person whose righteousness deeds equals his words, who younger, and to me, this is all indicative of the free fall that we're in, who will not endure sound doctrine, because a lot of these truths come back to us. There's a level of fight in ourselves because it's like, it's so contrary to what we've been taught, and think that there is this battle. So when it says that they will not endure sound doctrine, sometimes it's really hard to like embrace the biblical view over what your culture and even your religion has been telling you. And he did a YouTube on homosexuality, and I thought, well, I'll listen to this, see what he says, because he's a wisdom teacher. He's got a lot of the esoteric understanding. And lo and behold, totally will not endure sound doctrine. Here he understands, and this is like a whole teaching, the understanding, the binary system set up of male and female, all right, which has nothing to do with gender parts, has nothing to do with, and I mean, it's a philosophical, it's a theological, and it is in physics way that Yahweh has set up the yin and the yang, two sides of the same coin, that through combination he created the worlds. So the archetype, this is just, let me say this right here, the word archetype, which is really a philosophical word, all right, Plato kind of coined it, is the word arche, like I said, comes from the word first or head or the first, like the first imprint, all right? So that's why Yeshua is the first, all right, of many brethren. He is the original archetype. He is the blueprint, all right? And it's, so to understand that this is the thing, Yahweh instituted an archetype of male and female, all right, in combination. All right. Now, unfortunately, most people, this is the part I've taught on this in the fall, we always equate that sexually. Oh my gosh. And it always gets into lust. And we live in an age of a really problematic mind culture that wants to sexualize and lustfully sexualize and denigate and not allow people to think on deeper, higher levels about this. All right. So he understands this, but here he even himself cannot preach the archetype correctly, that everything is made in a male and a female. All right. You do not reproduce. And this is the whole point. See, this is the way you don't understand. The whole point of Yahweh at making a creation and saying, go forward, be fruitful and multiply, which he said to all that, was so that this thing would have continuity, so that it would go on, an ecosystem that would just continue to replenish itself, to renew. This is the cycle of life. And it's from a binary, a male and a female combination. So the fact that they can't even teach that is the archetype that Yahweh instituted. Now, we all saw sin and fall short of the glory of God. So, I mean, I'm not condemning the lifestyle of the person who is caught, you know, in the lower level understandings. But the point is, you have to, if you don't endure sound doctrine, if you cannot even embrace that is the archetype, all right? We are made in his image and likeness, which is male and female, and break it down to left brain and right brain. I mean, there's a whole huge, and it's in our text, philosophy about this, which the ancients had. That's why wisdom is female. That's why we see gender in the language. I've been through a lot of this. So these are deeply disturbing things to me. All right. Another one, oh my gosh, it can go so crazy as to, well, another one I come across is meat eating versus a vegan lifestyle, to now try to totally change the plain meaning, the literal meanings of the text, that there was never really any sacrifice, that Yahweh didn't institute that we are just like, quote unquote, the animals, which are beasts, which is a lower level of life form, that we don't have the breath of Elohim, that the Adamic man, this is the whole point. Everyone is born into this whole construct, all right? And you will have to figure out how to, if this is to elevate your soul, to become part of the Adamic, part of which is another called all Israel, which is the highest level that the Father is offering to anyone born into this construct, basically to become part of his order, okay? Because there are many orders. There's many levels of living beings out there. I've said this, you know, you can be from the mineral to the vegetable, to the animal, or to the Adamic, which is, and that's the breath level. That's what was blown into Adam. And there's a whole movement out there of trying to put people on the same level as the animals, and not understanding the hierarchy, not understanding our real role. The Torah is 100% explicit, and what's the word I'm looking for? Is explicit and very thorough on how we treat animals, how we interface with animals, you know, what animals are clean and unclean. I mean, there is everything you need to know is already established in the Torah. So these things are very, this is where we're falling, because people are not reading, embracing, chewing, disseminating, in my opinion, the deeper esoteric writings that have always been in the Hasidut. And many Jews don't even read it today. I mean, many Jews are as secular, so to speak, and unbelieving, quote unquote, as a lot of Christians are. But there is a group on the planet, and we are going to get there into our calling. So let me just, astrology, this was another one. As we're understanding now that astrology, yes, astrology versus astronomy, okay, two branches of a science of studying the universe, the cosmos is, but astrology is real. Astrology is in our Bible. A lot of the phraseologies are astrological references. This is a fact. You know, the Virgin clothed with the sun at her head and the moon at her feet and the 12 stars. You know, this is a very astrological sign. All right. But, and what this all comes down to, and this is what we're saying, it all comes down to you ultimately, again, worshiping other gods. See, what it comes down to is you worshiping, thinking, and interacting, and in your mind, plateauing out, so to speak, at the level of other Elohims. This was always, this is where the crux of the matter, and putting Yahweh's, there's so many words, you know, his deputies, his servants, his angels, his magistrates, his craftsmen, his, the texts are so replete with different words to describe this, his agents, so to speak, and plateauing out on them, so to speak. All right. And that's what a lot of the religions do. That's what a lot of polytheistic Hinduism, or they understand the world of these quote unquote other Elohims, lesser E, and they put them as the highest pantheon. All right. And they plateau out there. And what the Jews have always retained, and they will, and they deserve a blessing, a special place, because that the Shema Israel, hear, O Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, the Lord your God, Adonai Echad is one, and he is at the top of the pyramid. See, a lot of these other theosophies, while they do have a ton of truth on how the cosmos works and a lot of the beings in it and their roles and these things, and this is where the gods of the nations, who literally, this is the whole point, at the time of Abraham, if you could study this, he literally took a bloodline or a people group, Abraham, and worked with them, and he gave the rest of the people, the mixed multitude, so to speak, to these other gods, the 70 gods of the nations. These were their gods, and they were under, this is what Enoch testifies to, they were under, the peoples were under their rule. And the people really, in a lot of ways, did not prosper per se like Israel did. When Israel was at the top of its game, it was really clear that their Elohim was at the top of the food chain, so to speak. But this, and again with Paul, people understand, this was the whole mission of these last 2 days, the time of the Gentiles, that was prophesied, that now, this is the time set aside that Yahweh was going to go after all of the lost sheep, all of the dispersed, the exiled, and those who had through intermarriage, come into this bloodline, and he was going to rescue them out of the Gentiles. He was going to be the light. He was the door. He came and he accomplished that as a shepherd. He went after, all right, all those who had been shut out for this time period and kept. And Judah, this is the whole point. They did beautifully. They did two things correctly that I believe they'll totally be. They kept a pure bloodline for Mashiach to come through, and they kept the writings in the house. Okay, so that's why I'm saying we have to trust this storyline, in my opinion, and not put the other theosophies of the world on the same level and the same, that they have the same level of truth operating in them. So what it comes down to, and there's another thing like a lot of people don't understand, in my opinion, and it's pivotal, you can understand the two houses, understanding how the house of Judah, who they are on the planet, what their story has been, and then the house of the northern kingdom, the house of Israel, the Ephraimites, the house of Joseph, how this whole thing has come down and where we are today, and the reunification. And it has been prophesied, and I believe it, by truly understanding, as Yeshua said, getting down to the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given unto us. You're part of this righteous remnant. Those secrets have been given unto us, and we're going to flush it out, and we're going to reveal it to the whole world. And it's just going to make, that's why he says that his glory, and Elohim will ultimately get all the glory. So let me just now backtrack. I have sort of said that. I want to go into, because a couple of the major themes that need to be understood, because like I say, Kabbalah is really the most purely preserved, systematic theology on what we can know about our Yahweh Elohim, from everything, from a literal level understanding, the true history, to the deep. You remember he says that the kingdom of heaven is within. And this is something that's in the esoteric knowledge that we're beginning to understand, that the kingdom of heaven is within us. What that means is the inner space, inner space is a whole world that is actually more real, more pure, and that's where the action is really going on. And that's what where the battle is. Joyce Meyer did quite a bit. She said, the battle is in the mind. And this is so true, because understanding, which comes from Jewish esoteric understanding, how we are formed. Let me put it this way: how we are made is a body with a nephesh soul. Our ruach, our spiritual, we're going up, and into our neshama, and into, there's actually even 2 levels of soul higher, where this true Sadiq, the true righteous, the true sage, and then finally one who almost is so holy. All right. These are levels that need to be understood, that the Bible is very specific about. I have said this before, that Hebrew, I absolutely believe, is the language of creation. And I've been studying a lot lately and trying to understand now what's up with the letters, the permutations, the name, what does it mean? What, the 32 paths of wisdom, the 72 names of Elohim? What are they doing? What's going on? What are they trying to say? What is being communicated to us? And so let me start here, because Yahweh, and last time you talked about time, this quote unquote time is so much huger than we think. We are at the end of a certain age, certain little epoch, but Elohim is so much, in every level, it's so much bigger than we could really ever even imagine. But the story of, let's just take the story of the Watcher Angels, which is totally getting flushed out today, which is really becoming a very real, no more mythology here, we're talking about some real root cutting. I'll get into that from Enoch, that's been going on. A problem that got completely out of control in the pre-world, or the pre-Noahide world, and that was destroyed, to where we are today, and this what's been growing, and the fact that it will happen again. There will be a fire, and not like, again, a camp, but we're talking about primordial energies that will literally burn up all chaff, all waste, all negativity, everything that is of the dark, that is not of the light, that is not actually going to be incorporated again into the new heaven and the new earth, which is another code we're saying, the new Adam Cademan, that Yahweh has been building. So one thing I want to say now, I want to give, because I have been finding unbelievable parallels between a lot of the midrashic understandings and texts, what Paul is saying, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and a lot of this esoteric knowledge. They're really all, to the righteous, they're on the same page. They're saying the same things. They're disseminating the same truths and knowledge. Obviously, you have to work through the semantics, which is a part of it. What word they're using to express it, we're really expressing the same thing. And to unbelievable levels, yes, we are. There is a midrash, a commentary. It's called the Tana Debe Eliyahu. Now, one thing I would say, my Hebrew pronunciation is not great. I so wish I was brought up, but Yahweh knows what he's doing. He says, I testify on myself, heaven and earth, whether man or woman, whether Gentile or Jew, whether slaveman or slave woman, everyone according to his actions, the Ruach HaKodesh will dwell on him. In effect, it's saying anyone can reach the level of Ruach HaKodesh, even women, slaves, or non-Jews. Now, who do you think, where does this verse, if you were listening, should ring a bell with another verse from our New Testament? Paul in Galatians 3:28 basically says the same thing. This is an understanding that has always been. So let me try to restate what I'm saying. This is from a midrash, I believe it was written in the 1700s, 1750s is what I want to guess. It's called Tanad, or in other words, what it is it's the teachings of the school of Elijah. Now, this is another thing. See, there have been these streams, all right? Elijah was a major prophet, especially in the north, and he had a school of prophets. I always get mixed. Elijah and, oh my gosh, who's the other? Elijah and Elisha, who was his predominant protege, all right, came from this. But that school of the prophets, in a remnant sense, went on, morphed into other schools. The time, I believe into the Essenes, a lot of the writings of the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of this information, it's just fast forwarding into different generations, into different groupings of people, all right, but are retaining the truths that are in this. So anyways, it has always been known that whether you're a man or a woman, praise the Lord, right? A Gentile or a Jew, a slaveman or a slave woman, anyone according to their actions can receive the Ruach HaKodesh. This is Paul says this in Galatians 3:28. There's neither male nor female, bondwoman or slave. We are all one in Christ Jesus, which is, again, that's the Ruach HaKodesh. Christos is a word, is an oil, which refers to understanding, which refers to the deepest level of Holy Spirit initiation and understanding that you can have. This is something that has been, this is why, okay, in the story, why the whole story with Peter and the tent, when he has that vision on the rooftop and he gets this vision of these sheets laid down and it's all these animals clean and unclean. And the Father's telling him, look at, I've cleaned up, I'm making away everything now. Anything clean or unclean can come into, through Mashiach. This is the point. Jesus did something so specific now. It was so unbelievably. That's why it was like a nuclear bomb went off in the first century when people really got a hold of this understanding. He has made everything clean. And so Cornelius, he happened to be in the home of went to the home of a righteous Gentile. This is the whole point. There have always been righteous people on the planet from in every tribe, nation, tongue, and people group. And this is why we do have, praise the Lord, so much truth and light that is out there in so many levels, all right? And that somebody who truly lives in what it means to be a pious, righteous, and this is what I want to go to, is this is the two sides of the same coin. This is another flip side. So I have two big things that I really want to impart. So you can trust the writings in the scribal house of Judah. You can trust, and I am getting very close to making a bibliography of really good books to read and what I can believe trustworthy, authentic works. I just came up with a new one, actually by a Jewish, someone brought to my attention a great book called the Kabbalah. It's Doctrine, Development, and Literature by a man named Christian David Ginsburg. And he was a Jew, born a Jew in Poland, who converted to Christianity when he was around 16 or so, went on, and I believe his year, in the late 1900s, so he would be 1830 to 1880s, I think, one of the most major scholars, knew Hebrew, knew the Midrash, knew the Talmud, knew all Christian writings, and was a huge help to getting a lot of these texts coming translated for the Western Goyim world. Praise the Lord, right? That Yahweh would take, a young Jewish lad, make him a Christian. His name, even, I think it's so funny, Christian Ginsburg. The name is, got two sides of the same coin there. He's got a wonderful book that would be a great primer, because what we have to do is get, in my opinion, and I'm getting, I keep saying that I'm getting this together in my mind to teach it methodically and linearly. A couple of very key concepts that you really have to have and wrap your mind around, and that are in the text, but they have been removed from our understanding in these later generations. So I was back to talking about a pious Gentile. I don't know why I went on that little rabbit trail there, sorry. But Cornelius because it has always been known, and this has always been the separating line. This is why in the book of Hebrews talks, show me your works, show me your faith by your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works, the two sides. You must have a level of holiness and Torah keeping about you to be even in the running to be considered a pious, Sadiq, elect, or saint, whatever word you want to put on it. The lawlessness, the antinomianism that is rampant in the church, the Christian church today, and even the Jews are loosening their law, letting their grip go on this in unparalleled ways. We are in absolute free fall. That anyone would think that they could have relationship with Ruach HaKodesh, which is our Holy Mother, which is wisdom and understanding, Chokmah and Bina, okay, and not love righteousness. If you love me, you will obey me. That is so fundamental. So if you cannot, and we can start with just the Noahide laws, we can go into the 10 Commandments, these categories of behavior. And like I said, you get into something like sexuality, homosexuality. And if you cannot even endure the sound doctrine that the archetype that the Father established, I didn't do it. He did it. If you love him, you will obey him. All right. Now, again, not that we don't all sin and fall short of the glory, and Father will rescue anyone. I mean, I've been rescued from some pretty major sin patterns in my life. So, but let me now go into this, what I want to say here, because it's very important. And I want to give you another parallel between a midrash and a New Testament writing. And you tell me that the righteous remnant have not been disseminating the same spiritual truth. And again, and this is what people understand about Paul, and what I'm going to read, there is two elements to this thing. There is the letter of the law, and there is the spirit of the law, all right? The highest level of Ruach HaKodesh that one can achieve is the spirit of the law, all right? Because, and when you are totally rewired, I guess would be the phrase, where you just out of your inner space, how do I say this? Where you just naturally do the things that are good and true and right and just and holy and pure and of good report, where your character excels in every category, so that you really are like a son of the Father, full of mercy and justice, then and anyone can achieve this. All right, this is the way, because the Noahide laws have been out there, the 10 Commandments have been out there. There has been a totally none of this was hidden. This is not light that was hidden. The level of behavior that the Father expects from his righteous, those who want to be called according to his name. Now, in 2 Peter 1:5, we have a very familiar verse. It says, now for this reason, he says, now applying all diligence in your faith, supply moral excellence. All right, category number 1, moral excellence. You must walk the talk. All right, your actions must exhibit the level of talk that you're giving, right? So, and in your moral excellence, knowledge, because we're climbing a ladder. Look, it's like this is another way of expressing climbing Jacob's ladder, of entering into closer and more intimate understanding, dialogue, wisdom, relationship with the Father. Remember, without holiness, no one will see the Lord. So as you have moral excellence, as you get your flesh under control, listen, this is a lifelong process. We're never told to, quote unquote, it's not the word perfect. It's not the word perfect, which means literally perfect without any blemishes. No, perfect biblically and used in the New Testament is a word that means mature. You literally you become mature, like an adult. You can be entrusted with high responsibilities and knowledge. This is the point. You don't put children, they don't run over they don't go and oversee the nuclear facility in your town. That you put adults who have, and this is one of our problems today in our government, all these things, because we really don't believe anymore that person's character and moral integrity has anything to do with his work performance or what he does in the world. This is a major disconnect. This is another issue. All right. So I don't want to get in. I want to preach about this. So in your faith, apply moral excellence, in your moral excellence, knowledge, and in your knowledge, self-control, and in your self-control, perseverance, and in perseverance, godliness. And in your godliness will exhibit brotherly kindness, and in your brotherly kindness, love. For if these qualities are yours and are increasing, they render you neither useless nor unfruitful in the true knowledge of Yeshua HaMashiach. All right, Jesus Christ, our Lord. All right, this is the point. If you can get the connection, first of all, that there is a connection to the way you live and your level of spirituality. All right. Now, there's in a Jewish sage in an extremely beautiful book called Gates of Holiness, which has some of this deep, again, understanding especially, and this all relates to the levels of our soul. Let me say, Rebbe Pinchas, the son of Yair, says, zeal, all right, which is another word for diligence, all right, listen to what he's saying. Zeal brings to cleanliness, cleanliness to purity, purity to separation, separation to holiness, holiness to humbleness, humbleness to fear of sin to piety, or they would call it, is another word for holiness, piety to Ruach HaKodesh, and through Ruach HaKodesh to the resurrection of the dead. We're on the same page, all right? Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. You will not be in the, all right? Now, again, there's levels to this thing. We're being called up into a body, a new body. And I'll say this is why Paul is saying, I've run the race. I want to receive the prize. The prize is to be literally in the house with the Father, in the city of Elohim. There's going to be other places, so to speak, in this thing, all right? This is the whole point. In a body, your feet do great things and they have an extremely important purpose. But really, it's the brain, it's in the mind that the real, the control panel, right? That's where the action really is. So if you want to be in the highest echelons, in the throne room of Elohim, administering justice and mercy, judging this is where you're going to want to get to, all right? But you get there, all right? This is the point, through this concept of zeal bringing you to cleanliness, to purity, to separation, to holiness, to humbleness, to the fear of Elohim, to the fear of sin, which is, again, the beginning of all knowledge, to Ruach HaKodesh. So we're tracking. This is the righteous remnant will always say the same thing. Now, we had a problem here, and this is the thing, as knowledge comes back to us, whose storyline are you going to believe? You can read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and has some good information, and you can try to figure out who the players are, the names relate to, and we can, to a certain extent, unpack that. But again, it's an unreliable witness to the righteous remnant. And I'll just tell you, again, I got to go a rabbit trail, because this one that really corks me, because it's all about rewriting history, rewriting truth, propaganda war. The word, when you understand the Hebrew letters, is the first letter is Aleph, all right? And I have some videos on this. Aleph is such an amazing letter to study. It's the first letter, and it's a slash, and it's got a vav coming off the top, and really it's a vav coming off the bottom. Isn't that interesting? A vav, if you know, Yav, hey, vav, hey. Vav is the symbol for the sun, okay? He is the son of Elohim, all right? Anyways, won't go there. It's a slash. What it's really representing is the heavens above, the heavens and the earth, all right? And there's a dividing line, the firmament. All right, I don't want to get too much deep into this. What I wanted to say is, if you read a lot of translations, they say that one of the meanings to the word Aleph is ox head. And I kind of always had a problem with that. I mean, they would say, okay, it means strong leader. And I would go, yeah, I mean, Elohim, yes, he's a strong leader. He is our leader. This is the whole point. But an ox, as I understand an ox, it's a beast. I mean, it's a beast. Okay, it's not referring to an automat or Elohim, it's a beast. So I always had a problem. Well, kind of find out that this is what they do. They rewrite our history. It's a Canaanite. It comes from a Canaan. And this, all right, let me stop here. I got to give this little backdrop. When you study out Hebrew, they will always try to deflect and confuse it and say, no, it can't be the original languages. We've got this Chaldean, we've got all this other stuff. We got Phoenician, we got Arabic, all this stuff. A lot of the reason why Israel is not recognized is because we are the head and not the tail, because of our sins. This is part of the whole thing. Because of our sins, we cannot shine in the brightness that is available to us. And that has happened. Like Solomon's wisdom was far surpassed anything in the world. He was shining pretty bright with full wisdom and knowledge and understanding before he, fell, before his wisdom corrupted him. Whatever. Who else did that happen to? But whatever. But it's true that the knowledge is in Judah that Aleph is not an ox head. It means oneness. It means unity. in its Hebraic sense. Get rid of the Phoenician, get rid of the Canaanite addition to it, saying it's an ox head, which is their head. All right, we understand all this. The ox head is a beast. All right, we know that Lucifer is referred to the whole demonic as beasts. It's a beast kingdom. It's lower than the breath level of Adamite. This is the point. All right, so for them to take the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet and call it an ox head, meaning, I mean, it's like, just get out of my face. I am done with you liars. All right, let's believe in our truth. It means echad, it means unity, it means oneness. It is the point, it is the first one before anything gets started, before any multiplication, any reproduction, any going on forming and bara, create, form, or bake of the different universes. It's the Aleph, which is a yod, which is so deep and esoteric, explains everything, but it is Echad, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. There's the oneness of Elohim, that even though there is a multifaceted universe out there of many levels and different levels of beings and things, he is over it all. He is the high God. He's outside of it. He's transcended outside of it. He inhabits it. It is his, and he is a unit. He is not the one who's divided. Let me put it this way, all right? Everything that comes against him to try to divide his word. But he is a unity. He is a oneness. He's an inseparable Elohim, and you cannot be separated once you're put back in place to our Elohim. Isn't that comforting to know? So this is why, to me, it's very important that we get back to our Hebrew roots. We really flush this out. We get on a sure foundation, and we begin to tell the world, okay, it's correction time. We are in correction time. So I have no more, I guess my patience is wearing thin, because they're taking a lot of saints, again, down rabbit trails that don't need to be. So this, if you study in with the whole concept of the Watcher Angels, Genesis 6, we had a Nephilim incursion, all right, into the Genetic. It's always about, so this is my point, it is always about unholy, unsanctioned mixtures versus holy, sanctified combinations that are blessed by Elohim, that he said were good. All right. So there's a book I've been reading, Rachel Eller, she's a great Dead Sea Scroll scholar. She has a book, it's called The Three Temples. I've been trying to plow my way through it. Some of her information is really astute. It's very astute. But she talks about what I was talking about, two sides of the same coin. If you're a Luciferian, if you're a Freemason, or if you are of a lawless nature, you will refuse to come under the hegemony of Elohim, where he has laws, statutes, codes, levels of behavior that are acceptable to him. All right. You want to be, this is the point, Lucifer, do as thou wilt. You are your own God. You set your own standards. You function, you beat according to your own drummer, right? That drummer, obviously, in many of the outward manifestations, the fruit of actions is obviously not coming from the Father. So she goes on here to state, promiscuity, incest, stem from unbridled sexuality not directed towards reproduction and continuity, and from violation of civilized limits and taboos, including the cardinal sins of idolatry, bloodshed, and incest. Now, this is where you study the mythology of the ancients, and this is what he said, that they were evil, into evil continuously before the flood. They had become so corrupted. And this is why, you ever seen your Bible is written on 3 levels, minimum, always 3 levels: your nephesh soul, your body, your ruach, and your neshama. And your body, soul, so it's your body, your soul, and your spirit. And things are happening in all of these dimensions of us all the time, in unseen realms that is called, our inner space. The kingdom of heaven is within, all right? And it is all about a battle of redeeming, reclaiming, winning the battle of the influences of, so to speak, the dark energy versus the light. I mean, this is sort of what's going on, all right? And this has always been. This was the whole point within the garden. This was the whole point with Cain. The father said, look, I know you got a mixed parentage thing going on here, but if you'd asked me, I would have helped you. I would have helped you. overcome your evil inclination. So this is my point. The evil inclination, Samuel the serpent, Lucifer, and these are all the same thing. They're the same being, the same force, the same emanation, or I don't want to use them, the same energy that's out there, but it's working in different levels. All right. So whether it's working in your soul, your nephesh, your animal soul, your spirit, or your higher soul, it's all going on. He has ways of infiltrating us at all different levels. See, this is fundamental to understanding what the texts are saying, so we don't get into this fundamentalism that locks us into a certain understanding, and meanwhile the world is going on past us, especially with true science, and you can't do that. So anyways, what I want to just go back here. So this concept of this influence of trying to trip up the Adamite creation of Elohim and getting them to commit acts that are contrary to Torah, because all of creation, believe it, runs on Torah. Angels have Torah just as much as we have Torah. All right. So this is why the fallen angels, there's a whole, they broke Torah. One of the most fundamental laws of the universe is you do not have unsanctioned and unholy mixtures going on. Otherwise, it puts a virus in the whole system, which is what we've had. So, I mean, I have spoken a lot about this stuff in my YouTubes, but she kind of puts it pretty succinctly. It says, and a lot of these, so what I just go, and they form a violation of civilized limits and taboos, including the cardinal sins of idolatry, bloodshed, and incest, which should not be committed even upon pain of death. They were prohibited in order to avert death and ensure life, to ward off the danger of loss of seed and annihilation, which would follow inevitably from forbidden relationships, commingling of opposites, and infringement of taboo. Forbidden relationships, incest, and unrestrained human desire depend on sensory perception. Now, I just did a couple of YouTubes, and you should, to get up to speed, almost as a prerequisite to understand deeper what I'm saying, I have one on Sex and the Serpent. I think I have Sex and the Serpent 1 and 2. You need to understand, and this is why one of the fundamental issues that the human psyche and our body and our soul and spirit is lust. And lust isn't always just sexual. It's a lust for any excess, food, in pornography you can do this, money, inordinate affections. All these things form into what is called lust, where there's this drive because our carnal nature has been corrupted. All right. The flip side is, all right, and this is why we have the law, and the law is a good schoolmaster. The law clearly delineates our boundaries and what is accepted and unaccepted. Now, okay, the forbidden relationships and all this, incest, unrestrained human desire is dependent on sensory perception, because we became people who were ruled by our passions. And this is like I was talking about this one guy who I really like, and he had to talk about human sex, but from the emotional point of view, like, oh, why should you say bad? We all have sin. We all have issues that we deal with. So it's not a finger pointing game. It's just, let's acknowledge the archetype, and from there try to figure out the rest and the rectification. Because if you don't know what the rectification or the right way of being, why would you even give something up if you don't know what the alternative is? Okay. All right. Now, what we need to have is a guarantee of the maintenance of the cycle of life through blessing, fertility, through sanctification and sanctity, through purity, through the observations of the covenant. And this, you get counting in number, Sabbath and oath, appointed times and calendar, all based on a principle transcending the human senses. And that the watchers, the creators, the story of the watchers is a story rooted in all of this forbidden behavior, which will lead to barrenness and a desert. And this is why the Bible is using these words, in the desert, in the wilderness, in the barrenness, and things, because it's telling, life and death. You have this contrast, in a desert, nothing grows. You said, in your blessings, everything will grow and increase and be abundant. This is sort of this, Because when you get into with the watchers, and this is what I'm saying, oh my gosh, when you get into the level of the world of Yetzirah, which is a world biblically of things that are formed, which you can begin to see, and this angels are in this world of formation, and then you get down into the world of Assyria, I don't know, and the world of actual physical manifestation and physical matter, where you can really see it pops out. You know, you put a seed in the ground and then boom, eventually you're going to see something. Oh, that is a, rose bush. That's a rose. The process can be thwarted and corrupted at any level. All right. The seed can, it doesn't get water, so it can't grow, or, it gets above the ground and then you have a hurricane and wipes it out. I mean, so many number of things can happen to this process of growth. And this is the whole story of our Bible. But understanding how these parables, how the parabolic, the esoteric, the arcane, how these stories and the words to what the deeper truths that are trying to be conveyed to us, it is in the mystical writings of the house of Judah. And we have to stop being afraid. There has to be a group of people on the planet who can digest the meat of the word and have a deep enough holy lifestyle and holy Ruach HaKodesh to get down to the bottom of it and to correctly, rightly divide the word of truth, so that we can have a sure word of prophecy, a sure word of prophecy for the peoples. So let me just, I want a couple last little things why it's so important. All right. So let me read you, because I was going to read you another quote from Enoch. So when you get into Enoch chapter 7, and it talks about how these watcher angels, because again, I have videos on angels. We have to understand there are so many classifications of living beings that we're dealing with. They've dumbed us down to think that, we're the only people in this whole cosmos. We're the only living beings. I mean, sentient entities. That is so, oh my gosh. And so now we think that everything is myth and mythology, and oh my gosh, the ancients made everything up. No, they lived through it. And we're going to live through it again at the end of the age. This thing is going to close out in great chaos. So you better have oil in your lamp. You better understand what you're dealing with. And like I say, not be, it says the word is a blockhead, somebody who just, your mind, you're blocked to the truth. Your dogma is established. You will not go into places of the light with the flashlight of the Holy Spirit to get into truth. But in chapter 7 of Enoch, it talks about how that they took wives, the forbidden mixtures. These people came down, these angelic orders that were watcher angels. They had a function in a different dimension of inner space, and they manifested themselves in the world of Assyria in physicality, and they mixed themselves and taught these people charms, conjugations, and they made them acquainted with the cutting of roots and of woods. Now, this is the thing. If we understood, I mean, really, that's just gene splicing. That's exactly what it's talking about. We understand this is Enoch fully versed in the tree of life. Okay, this is the Sefer I've been trying to teach on this. We'll get more, but this is the point. If you don't understand the basic theology in the tree of life and the roots and the trunk, the woods, all right, and the processes that are going on, not just physical gene splicing, taking a tomato and, cross breeding it with a, or whatever. No, my kids like to eat clementines, which is a cross, I believe, some kind of orange and another fruit. All right. So we're doing all this today. But those are just very low level gene splicing is going on. But you can do this thing on so many levels. The cutting of roots, the root systems, the genetic codes, even in the soul life of man. This is something we really got to get up to speed on, because you get into AI, this gets into some really deep and scary stuff. The level of forbidden combinations that have been done, can be done, and are being done, and will be unleashed on us soon. All right. So the cutting of roots and woods, like the torso of the trunk, which then will manifest, this is the whole point of the tree, and then it becomes branches, then becomes leaves, and then it becomes a flower and then it becomes a fruit. So the manifestation, if you're messing with the hidden inner parts of the gene splicing of something and the fruit you get of it, I mean, that's why their fruit was evil continually before the Lord. So and then it doesn't end there. See, so then these giants, these Nephilim, these created hybrids. So they made angelic, combining different angelic orders. And this is still going on. This is the history, a lot of the history of the planet being in subjugation to Lucifer's hierarchy. These giants turn themselves against mankind in order to devour them, yes. And then they began to sin against birds, beasts, creeping things, and fish. But these are, again, code words for other angelic orders. They didn't just stop with their order, let's just say, and the humankind. They went on to totally re-engineer and combine all different angelic orders, because those are code words for angelic orders. All right, I'm just telling you. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty serious, a lot, but we're got to get to the bottom of this thing from a certain stream. My last thing I want to say is a book. Like I said, I'll put up a bibliography soon. You know, I've just spent years trying to figure this out and make sure, you know, Father, is this, you know, I mean, if a teacher, if I disseminate false information, I'm going to be judged for it. I'm not exactly, you know, want to do that per se, right? So it talks about in Psalm, oh my gosh, I think it's Psalm 59:18. It says, open thou mine eyes that I may behold the wondrous things out of the law. All right. The hot Torah. Tell us here, Yeshua is Torah. Torah is Yeshua. They're inseparable. And he, like I said, let me just say, he has a visible manifestation. He came as a man. He had a body. He will have this is the whole point of the resurrection. He showed us there will be a physical manifestation to us that will live forever. But he had a soul too, okay? And he had a spirit. But so when I say he is the oral Torah and he is the written Torah, what I'm trying to say, you have to understand there are two parts of this thing. This is something I battle on a personal level with different people on YouTube or different people that have interfaced with me that don't want to believe this. So all I can just say at this point, get over it, because the Holy Spirit is just ready to run. I mean, she is moving. She has a goal for the elect. So there is the garment, which everyone can see. This is the principle. This is how allegorically it's stating. There is a garment. I have clothes on, praise the Lord. All right, which everyone can see. And there are foolish people who, when they see a well-dressed person, think of nothing more than this beautiful garment and take it for the body. All right, and this is the whole point, the superficial level. You know, this point. So nice clothes mean a really nice person. Well, I don't think so. All right. We know all this. You can make many midrashic applications of this and take it for the body, while the worth of the body itself consists in the soul. This is the point. It's what's inside a man, all right, that maketh the man, not the outward appearance. All right. The law too has a body. And this is the commandments, which are called the body of the law. So the law has a body. This is the point. It's called the commandments. It's the obvious stuff, the first level meaning. You teach children, you don't steal. All right. All right. This body is clothed in garments. All right. So that we're making an analogy. The law has a body too. And this is the commandments, which are called the body of the law. This body is also clothed in garments. And there are many levels to it. I can put on many levels. Right now I have a shirt and a sweater. I have 2 levels of garments on, covering. All right, this is the point, which are the ordinary narratives. All right, this is the visible, it's visible, easy to understand, that even a child can get it. Nobody has an excuse for being lawless in front of the Father, because this part of the body of the law is so obvious and easy to get. You can just see it. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing, no monkey business going on. The fools of this world look at nothing else but the garment. This is the fundamentalist mentality, which consists of the narratives in the law. They do not know anymore and do not understand what is beneath this garment. They don't understand that the whole principle is you have a garment, but you have something under the garment. And we are told to get into the hidden. You know, the treasure is in the earth, all right? We're tracking with this principle. But those who have more understanding do not look at the garment, but at the body beneath it, inside it, the moral, This is what Paul was saying. So this is the point where people don't understand. He was teaching Gentiles how you can fulfill the law in its highest level. You don't need a temple. Believe me, the temple's gone. Sacrifices are gone and done. We're not going to do this thing in the Orthodox Jewish way anymore. They were doing it because we're in a new things going on. All right. It's not going to be picked up again until the end of the age. This is the point. All right. He's not teaching another law. This is so, it really irritates me because this is so fundamental. If you're going to just look at the outer garment and be a fundamentalist and not reach deep inside and let the Ruach take you behind the curtains and teach you the true moral of the life that you can live, it's why Yeshua could sum it all up into it. You love Elohim and love your neighbor as yourself. It's a real simple principle. What you would do unto others, don't do unto others what you don't want to have done unto yourself. All right? But those who have more understanding do not look at the garment, but at the body inside it or beneath it, the moral, the soul level, what's hidden. While the wisest of the servants of the heavenly King, those who dwell at Mount Sinai, look at nothing else but the soul. And the soul is equated to the secret doctrine. This is what I'm saying. It's a hidden, it's inside. You have to, you're not going to see it at the first level. You have to dig a little deeper. In the writings is the oral Torah. This is a principle, which is the root of all the real law. These are destined in the world to come to behold the soul of this soul, which is the deity, which is the breath of Elohim. And this is why anyone who wants to live righteously can attain Ruach HaKodesh. And this is why the door was flung wide open to the Gentiles, and even in an absolute personal way, where they could now, not only live piously, but they could actually literally be now reconnected and regrafted in to the covenants, to the body, to the New Jerusalem that's being built above. I mean, this is, people, we just got to understand this stuff. So it is the inner, it is the soul life. This is where the action is. This is where the battle is. This is where by getting your flesh, the outer garment, under subjection, in control, so you are not, it's not hard for you to obey the simple, literal level understandings of the commandments. Because I'll tell you, listen, Israel could not do this. I love Judah, I really do, but they failed on some, and we have failed too. So it's not like, I'm making it, but on so many levels. If they had really kept the Jubilees, if they had really kept the Shemitahs and the Jubilees and showed the world how to have an economic system that never went into slavery or haves and have-nots, but was always an abundant, level playing field for all generations, the world we just wouldn't even have the world we have today. It would have been totally 100% different. People don't understand the levels, the what is in HaTorah, and it almost makes me cry. If they had kept the Jubilees, we would never have this world where the Luciferians, the 3%ers, would have been able to keep us into the bondage that we are in today. So, on that note, I'm going to quit. I hope it blessed you, and we're just going to continue on this journey of applying true wisdom and setting all the captives free. In Yeshua's name, shalom, peace, and blessing.